Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are discussing the latest development in the Iran war. And this past weekend, Iran held ceremonies for the death of the Ayatollah and they mourned his death. But we also in the US celebrated our 250th anniversary. So let's jump right into it to get the latest development of the Iran war. I use uh, Indian-based publication because I believe that they provide fair reporting on these type of matters, and so we'll go ahead and take a page from them. All right.
Now, there's an unwritten rule in politics. Nothing revives a struggling government quite like an external enemy. And Iran may have just proved it. 7 months ago, the regime was battling angry protesters. Today, it is showcasing millions of mourners. I am talking about the funeral of Iran's slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It's a 6-day multi-city state funeral which began on the 4th of July. Talk about irony with impeccable timing. Today is the third day of the ceremony. A procession covering nearly 6 miles or more than 9 kilometers through the heart of the capital is taking place. The burial is scheduled to take place on the 9th of July. The show that Iran put up on the first 2 days of the ceremony was anything but low-key. Millions poured into Tehran over the weekend for prayer ceremonies. The coffins of Ali Khamenei and members of his family were carried through streets draped in black. His black turban rested on top of the coffin, a symbol not just of religious authority, but of political succession. The bodies of his dead relatives were also placed beside him, including the small coffin of his 14-month-old granddaughter. Crowds waved Iranian flags. Others carried banners declaring, "We will rise." With music blaring and free food and drinks on offer at hundreds of stalls, the area around the funeral ceremonies had the feel of a summer festival on Sunday. Volunteers provided fruit juice and water under a scorching sun in the capital city's center. Take a look. This wasn't accidental. Governments understand optics, and Iran understands symbolism better than most. The message was carefully choreographed. Look at us. We're organized. We are united. And most importantly, we are functioning, not collapsing. Donald Trump's decision to escalate military confrontation may have achieved the exact opposite of what Washington intended. Instead of accelerating regime collapse, it handed Tehran something priceless, a martyr. And every political system knows the value of martyrdom. That explains another striking feature of this funeral. The enemies were everywhere, not physically, but visually. Giant posters showed Donald Trump, other members of his administration, including J.D. Vance and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as wanted criminals. Crosses all over their faces, threats written in English, such as "There will be blood" and "Kill Trump." Iranians taking part in the ceremonies also burned the flags of the United States and United Kingdom. Take a look.
اما سخت درونه.
A lot of apps have added a voice option lately. They hear you, but none of them actually listen. Watch me compare what I say to what Whisperflow understands. Hey Ashley, couple of things to sort out. Already it got the formatting and the right name spelling. Confirm my table res tonight. Send the final attendance.
Almost secondary. The perception itself matters because despite those efforts, delegations still arrived. Among them was India. Tehran publicly thanked New Delhi, saying the Iranian people would never forget the gesture. Yet amid this overwhelming display of unity, one face was missing: Khamenei's son, the current supreme leader of the regime, Mujtaba Khamenei. Although 3 of Khamenei's sons were filmed at the procession, crying as the coffin of their father and other family members were carried. The most important figure of the regime stayed absent. In fact, Mujtaba Khamenei has not appeared publicly since becoming supreme leader. Officially, there's no explanation for this. Unofficially, there are many reports. Some suggest he is still recovering from severe injuries suffered during the attack that killed his father and much of his family. Others point to security. According to a New York Times report, Mujtaba Khamenei would be the highest value target for Israel if he makes a public appearance. An earlier report suggested Tel Aviv plotted to kill senior Iranian officials, including the country's foreign minister, during negotiations with Washington. Even Donald Trump pointed out the vulnerability in his remarks to Axios. He said, and I'm quoting him here, "They're all there. One shot and we can take them all out." The Nobel Peace Prize Committee should start taking notes because Donald Trump is working really hard to bring peace to the region, with an asterisk the size of a missile. Whether Mujtaba Khamenei steps into public view before the funeral ends could become the defining image of Iran's attempt to prove that its revolution survives. Its most consequential transition yet. For now, the funeral moves beyond Tehran. Processions will continue through the holy Iraqi cities of Karbala and Najaf before the burial. The message, needless to say, cannot be ignored. 7 months ago, Tehran streets echoed with chants against the regime. Today, those same streets are filled with millions mourning the man who symbolized it. What happened? Did Iran suddenly fall in love with its rulers? Or did one assassination and one war achieve what decades of state propaganda never could? Because this isn't just the funeral of Ali Khamenei. It is Iran's biggest political performance. A 6-day spectacle designed to send one message and one message to Washington, Tel Aviv, the Iranian people. The supreme leader is dead, the regime isn't. And hidden behind the sea of black flags, free food, revolutionary songs, and carefully choreographed crowds is a question nobody can answer. Where is Iran's new supreme leader?
I think it's important for me to weigh in at this point on the first segment that was discussed. The question is, where is the supreme leader? Well, Israel and the United States have made a habit of bombing and killing top leaders in Iran. And I think after they've lost maybe like 2 series of leaders, from killing Khamenei to the next successors that were supposed to be in place, Iran is taking certain precautions to not showcase where certain leaders are. And I think that's logical, right? And the same thing, if the roles were reversed and our leaders was under attack, you probably would not see them around too often, right? Because obviously they're targets, and Israel and the US have really good intelligence in terms of locating those leaders, which is how the Iyotolla got killed in the first place. So it's understandable that he's probably hiding out. I know it's a tough situation for them as a whole because obviously that was their leader for many years and the people are mourning them. Now, I think what's important about this is that initially we were told the story that the Iranian people were going to be liberated and they were going to overthrow their government and their regime. They were being oppressed and they were going to be liberated. Instead, what you saw as a result of us taking out their leader is the people banded together. There was millions of people out there. So I think this is a miscalculation on the part of the U.S. and Israel for assuming that by killing the leader, the people were just going to view us and Israelis as liberators who liberated them from their oppressed leaders. Instead, what I think it did is the opposite effect. I think it made those people more bitter and more hostile towards Israel and the U.S. for supporting them. And so I don't know that this was a wise move, and I think it will have a lasting negative effect on Donald Trump's legacy. And we have yet to see the fullness of that effect, but it can't make him popular, given the fact that this is not a popular war by even the people here in the United States. So we'll see where it all goes. But again, a miscalculation on the part of our president to get himself involved in this war.
Now let's look at the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. What we all know is NATO. NATO is a political and military alliance. It has 32 members from North America and Europe. And to ensure coordination among its members, NATO is headed by a Secretary General. For decades, the Secretary General had just one job: keep the alliance together. Today, he has another job: keep Donald Trump happy. The Western Security Alliance is gathering in Turkey. The two-day summit begins tomorrow. It will take place in Ankara. And this time, the agenda for the group is not about stopping Russia or expanding its influence. Instead, it is saving itself from the group's strongest member, the United States. Last month, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was in Washington. It was his fifth visit to the White House since taking charge of NATO. Rutte walked into the Oval Office and set up 3 large display boards. He then went on to flatter Trump, showing a chart that read, "The Trump Trillion," written in big, shiny, golden letters. The chart showed how Europe and Canada have increased defense spending. This was Rutte's way of showing Trump that NATO is serious about paying the bills. But Trump ignored the flattery completely. Instead, he spent 20 minutes criticizing NATO allies.
I was disappointed with Italy. I was disappointed with the UK. He's now gone. And, he had a lot of problems. But we were disappointed with the UK. We were disappointed with Germany and France. We were disappointed with most of them. Spain is a horror show. Spain is terrible, even from your standpoint. I mean, they don't want to pay anything. They think they're in for a free ride.
Now, Trump was referring to the war in Iran. NATO members like Italy, France, and Spain denied the United States access to their air bases. And that is why Trump is disappointed with NATO allies. Here's what he said.
I just want their loyalty. We don't need their money. We don't need anything. We have the most powerful military in the world by far. But I just want loyalty. We're so loyal to them. We're always fighting for them. We have thousands of troops all over Europe. In Germany, we have 50,000 troops. And then you want give us a little nudge, give us a little kiss.
But the insults did not deter Mark Rutte. He held strong, continued with his charm offensive. First, he called Trump a great president. Then he called Trump the leader of the free world.
You have taken leadership here. Last week, you signed the Defense Procurement Act. You made it possible for companies to work together to be able, therefore, to ramp up their defense production. You have been very harsh with them a couple of weeks ago. I had one of them over in my office. Yeah, it was really harsh. I had one of them over in my office. He was still trembling. But I just wanted to tell this story because, ladies and gentlemen of the American media, this is important. This is your president, but also leader of the free world, taking the leadership role as is necessary.
This is not the first time Rutte has openly flattered Trump. During last year's NATO summit, he called Trump, and I'm quoting, "Daddy."
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like 2 kids in a schoolyard. They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
Welcome to today's North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where Europe treats the security alliance like a corporate appraisal and thinks appeasing the boss will get them brownie points. But despite Rutte's efforts, NATO is walking on thin ice. And we may soon find out if the alliance will survive Trump's presidency. The 2-day summit in Turkey begins tomorrow, as I mentioned, and Donald Trump has already set the tone. First, Trump said he's only going because Turkey's president invited him. And now he has shared a post calling for a restraining order against Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. This will likely reignite the feud between the two leaders. The peace president started it when he claimed that Meloni had begged to take a picture with him during the recently concluded Group of Seven summit in France. Clearly, the US president is in no mood to mend ties with European allies. And here's the catch. Trump's demands keep changing. Yesterday, it was about money. Today, it is about loyalty. From Trump's perspective, being allies is not enough. Europe must take part in America's wars. NATO has moved from security sharing to loyalty tests. And the irony is impossible to miss. During the Iran war, there was one other NATO member that denied the US access to its air bases, and I'm talking about Turkey. Recep Tayyip Erdogan was against Trump's war. The Turkish president went even further than his NATO counterparts. He openly sided with the Iranian regime. But Trump didn't hit back at Erdogan. Instead, he rewarded him with praise and weapons.
I think that Erdogan look, he loves Turkey, right? He's doing a great job. He loves Turkey. I love the US, but he loves Turkey and he's doing a great job. He's a respected man, a respected leader, and he's been a friend of mine. Now, I shouldn't say that because guys like Peter would say, oh, he likes Erdogan. He likes Erdogan. No, Peter won't. Peter doesn't. Some of the others, let's say. But Erdogan is a strong man, but he's been everything I've ever asked him for, he's done.
Trump says Erdogan did everything he was asked to do. But we know that's not true. Turkey did deny American warplanes access to its air bases, but Trump hasn't targeted Erdogan. Clearly, he has his favorites. For now, Mark Rutter's charm.
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do whatever you want. You can have really relaxed, slow-paced stuff where you can take it easy.
He survived tomorrow's summit in Ankara, but uncertainty has become a permanent member of this group. And sometimes the loudest signs of a crumbling alliance aren't tanks at the border. They are the cold smiles seen at the summit table. So what does Monday look like to you? For most of us, it's traffic jams on the way to work, or back-to-back office meetings, or planning for the week ahead. But in China, Monday is about launching a nuclear-capable ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean. The weapon was launched from under the ocean. This is the first time China has fired a ballistic missile, that too from a submarine. A rare and highly escalatory step, even as per Chinese standards. Australia, Japan, and New Zealand have issued a strong protest. They say they were given a moment's notice before the missile was fired. Beijing has defended its actions and called it a routine Monday. What missile did China launch? But most importantly, why today? Our next report tells you more.
If you want to know what peak gaslighting looks like, then consider what China just did in the Pacific region. On Sunday, the 5th of July, China warned Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea of falling space debris. Beijing issued the formal warning through its official channel and warned commercial ships to stay entirely clear of a specific zone in the Pacific Ocean, citing the imminent fall of space debris. Fast forward to Monday, and China's space junk story has completely evaporated. Instead, the Chinese Defense Ministry has confirmed that it fired a ballistic missile. At precisely 12:01 p.m. Beijing time today, the People's Liberation Army Navy pulled the trigger. A nuclear-capable submarine of the Chinese Navy, lurking in the Pacific Ocean, fired a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Beijing said it was a routine test, and it wasn't directed at any country.
What I can tell you is that this is a routine military training. It does not target any specific country or target, and relevant countries were notified in advance. The test launch complies with international law and international practices. The launch was conducted safely and professionally in compliance with regulations. We hope that relevant countries will not overinterpret it.
China hasn't disclosed any information about the missile or the submarine that launched it. However, as per reports, it was a Type 094 Jin-class nuclear submarine that launched the intercontinental JL-3 missile. The Type 094 Jin-class submarine is a nuclear-powered attack warship. China has a total fleet of 9 such submarines. Each warship has a crew of up to 140 sailors and a total displacement of 11,000 tons. It can sail underwater for months at a time and has an unlimited range. The submarine carries 12 nuclear-capable ballistic missiles like the JL-3 that was fired today. This is an intercontinental submarine-launched ballistic missile. It has an operational range of up to 9,000 kilometers. It is guided by China's indigenous Beidou navigational system. The missile can be equipped with a nuclear or conventional warhead, and it's designed to carry multiple independent re-entry vehicles, meaning it can rain down 6 individual nuclear warheads over a designated target area, making it next to impossible to intercept this weapon. So when Beijing launched this missile today, Pacific nations were quick to condemn the aggressive move. Australia, New Zealand, and Japan have already called out China.
In response, Japan conveyed its grave concern regarding to China's increased military activity. From the standpoint of the security of Japan and the region, the government has concerns in regard to this missile launch. We will continue to maintain the highest level of vigilance and surveillance while closely monitoring related developments.
Beijing has brushed off the complaints and called it a routine test. However, reports indicate that this was no ordinary launch. In fact, this is the first time that China has fired a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Normally, China confines its missile tests within its borders. The last time China fired a missile into the Pacific Ocean was back in September 2024. Even then, the weapon was launched from land into the Pacific Ocean, not from a submarine. But watch the timing of today's launch. It came just a few hours after Australia signed a mutual defense agreement with Fiji. But that's not all. China and Russia have also kicked off joint naval drills today. Chinese and Russian warships will patrol across the Pacific Ocean for the next 7 days. Clearly, Beijing did not launch the missile in a vacuum. The dummy warhead now lies at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, but China's actions have raised tensions in the Pacific to new heights. Beijing wants the world to buy its narrative that today's missile launch was routine, but just one navigational error, one technical malfunction, or one miscalculation over one of the world's busiest shipping lanes could have ended in catastrophe.
For my next story, I want to begin by asking a question. If someone emptied your bank account, occupied your house for, let's say, 2 centuries, made you pay to leave it, and then showed up decades later asking you to thank them for the renovations, what would you call that? Former British Home Secretary Suella Braverman appears to have an answer. She calls it an investment. In a remarkable argument on the reparations debate, Braverman has suggested that Britain's former colonies should actually pay Britain back. You heard that right. It's one of those statements that makes you check the calendar and ask, is this 2026? Or did someone just read out a copy of a speech from the Imperial War Museum? In a post on X, Suella Braverman, a right-wing politician who defected from the Conservative Party to the far-right Reform UK Party earlier this year, declared, and I'm quoting, "The British Empire did so much good for the world." For context, in September, Jamaica is reportedly set to take its case for reparations directly to King Charles by lodging a formal petition. Responding to this news, Labour MP Bella Roberto Addy posted on X, and I'm quoting again, "It is getting harder and harder for British institutions to maintain their favoured tactic of simply ignoring calls for reparations." And in response to this, Braverman argued, of course, slavery was abhorrent, but to expect the British people of the 21st century to pay for actions that took place in the 18th century has no basis in law. If the government is seriously thinking about this, then former colonies should pay the British back for the considerable investment, effort, and contribution that this country made, which laid the foundations for many flourishing democracies today. Now, those who follow British politics will know that making incendiary comments has long been Braverman's political brand. As Home Secretary, she called the arrival of asylum seekers an invasion. and described homelessness a lifestyle choice. She subsequently quit the Conservative Party and joined Reform UK, as I mentioned earlier, a hard-right party best known for its anti-immigration politics. She defected, arguing that the Conservatives had failed to deliver on immigration. And despite the fact that she too is of Indian heritage, Braverman has called Indians the largest group of visa overstayers in the UK. So such provocations aren't totally out of character for her. That's not the point. But with her latest comment, the UK MP has found herself facing an immediate backlash online. One ex-user wrote, "Of course slavery was abhorrent, but" is a wild way to start a sentence. Another said, "The British Empire did not invest, it stole its colonies' wealth and resources to benefit the British Empire, not its colonies." Not that this needs a reminder, but development invests in people. And
stick with me for 30 seconds as I show you the trading strategies I used that allowed me to quit my full-time job 2 years ago and trade for a living. In fact, I put it all inside of this free community called The Vault that has over 25,000 students in it. And if you head over to the classroom, scroll down, join this completely free, head over to this course that says supply demand. We have like 7 other courses in here, but this is the only one you need. It's a quick 6-video course. We also have a written form as well, showing you exactly everything you need to know, when to enter and when to exit, with the same strategy I used that allowed me to quit my job and be a full-time trader. And I want to give it to you.
Was only fully repaid in 2015. Now think about that. British taxpayers spent generations paying off a debt created to compensate slave owners. So when Braverman asks why today's Britons should pay for history, Britain's own books show they already did. Remember, slavery was no footnote to colonialism. It was one of its key engines. For 300 years, millions of Africans were trafficked across the Atlantic, forced into slavery, treated as property to generate wealth that fueled imperial economies. And since we're on the topic, let's test this investment theory on India also. When the British arrived, India was one of the world's richest economies. When they left, India's share of global output had collapsed. Economist Utsav Patnaik estimates Britain extracted the equivalent of $45 trillion from India between 1765 and 1938, using colonial trade and tax records. Now, there's another argument you hear every time reparations come up. Why are we still talking about colonialism? Move on. But here's the thing, history doesn't stop. It doesn't stop mattering just because it's inconvenient for you. Colonialism wasn't some sort of a conflict or diplomatic disagreement. It was one of the largest wealth transfers in human history. For nearly 4 centuries, European empires built global wealth using colonies as sources of land, labor, raw material, and markets. Britain built the largest empire the world has ever seen. At its peak, it ruled nearly a quarter of the world's landmass and roughly a quarter of its population. And empires weren't charities. They were businesses with armies. The effects of the centuries of colonialism did not just go away, they won't. They didn't go away the day former colonies gained independence, when the British left. It left behind economic havoc, institutional inequality, social trauma, felt even today. So no, reparations are not about writing a check. Britain acknowledges that slavery caused immense suffering, but it insists there's no legal obligation to pay reparations. That's convenient because colonies weren't customers, they were inventory. So the next time someone asks, why can't former colonies just move on? Remember this. Most former colonies have moved on. They've built nations' entire economies. They've built democracies. But it's the former colonial powers that can't seem to let go of the idea that the empire was somehow a gift. It's a bit like someone who peaked in high school, everyone else graduated, got on with life, but they're still telling stories about the glory days. So, Ms. Braverman, you say Britain deserves repayment. Here's the problem. When you've spent 2 centuries taking from someone, you don't get to send them an invoice. Because we haven't forgotten who emptied the account in the first place. The visuals on your screen are from Mumbai. Mumbai.
That last story that you just saw, I think she made some valid points. Just in talking about, certain lawsuits being, not necessarily a lawsuit, but petitions being brought forth just to make right. I think it's long overdue. That's my opinion on that. And I do think, like specifically with the Jamaica filing a claim with, the King of England to see if they can get any sort of restitution. I think it's long overdue. And I think at some point, those people should consider that very seriously, just to change the image of, the title of colonizer and things of that nature. So I think it's a valid point that was raised by the presenter of this segment.
Today, India's maximum city is under maximum stress. Flights are delayed, trains have been suspended. A bridge has collapsed outside the city in Mahabaleshwar. Trees have been uprooted. Roads have disappeared underwater. People are wading through waist-deep flood water just to get to work, all because it rained. Mumbai has already received well over 200 millimeters of rain in several parts, and in some pockets it has also been close to 300. Authorities in Mumbai warned of flooding, flash floods, transport disruptions, high tide and landslide risks.
आज आपका मुंबई के लिए इसके लिए रेड अलर्ट इसको फिर किया है, 2 दिन पीछे था ही, आज भी रखा गया है। आज भी हैवी रेन, वेरी हैवी रेन्स वो अनेक जगहों तक में मिलेगी। एक्सट्रीमली हैवी एका दुका मिल सकती है। और दूसरा चीज़ है कि जो विंड्स है वो काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग हुई है, तो उसकी वजह से भी कहीं जो पेड़ गिरना या जो कच्चा हाउसेस को कुछ नुकसान है, या इसी तरह जो ओल्ड बिल्डिंग्स है, ये कंटिन्यूस रेन की वजह से आप देखेंगे वहाँ पे भी कहीं ना कहीं इस तरह की जो वनरेबल है उसमें दिक्कतें हो सकती है।
Today, barely 9 weeks after its grand inauguration, a new nearly 7,000 crore section of the Mumbai-Pune Expressway was partially closed after a rain-triggered landslide. The flagship project, featuring one of the world's widest road tunnels, was shut as a precaution. As a result, commuters were diverted onto the very route the project was built to bypass. Because of the poor weather, schools have been shut. The Maharashtra State Assembly was also adjourned. Tragically, 13 people have already died across Maharashtra in rain-related incidents. But here's the thing. None of this is new. Not the rain, not the flooding, not the fallen trees, certainly not the annual promises of better days. Every monsoon, Mumbai doesn't just receive rainfall. It receives deja vu, year after year. The monsoon doesn't just arrive. It exposes years of civic neglect. The rains are predictably intense, yet somehow they're always treated as a surprise by city officials. Despite having India's richest civic body, every year it's the same excuse. The rains were unprecedented, and the daily news reads like a ledger of civic failure. Trees, their roots suffocated by improperly laid tar and concrete, or left unpruned by municipal authorities, toppling, killing pedestrians. Just last week, one of them killed a student inside a school van. And even more dangerous are the city's manholes and storm drains, open to manage the flooding. Last week, a citizen fell to his death in an uncovered manhole. It's a tragedy that echoes the 2017 death of Dr. Deepak Amrapurkar, the prominent gastroenterologist who fell into an open drain after abandoning his car that was stranded to walk home. The Bombay High Court then ordered protective grills over the city's drainage network. Yet, the wheels of bureaucracy have moved frustratingly slowly. Meanwhile, thieves keep stealing the cast iron manhole covers, and somehow a city that calls itself India's financial capital and a 21st century global metropolis still hasn't managed to design a tamper-proof drain cover. That is an administrative failure. The absurdity of it all was captured in a viral video as well. A municipal official inspecting monsoon preparedness fell straight into an open drain, while the mayor stood just a few feet away. Rain is an act of nature, but an uncovered manhole isn't. A tree that hasn't been pruned for years isn't. A building that collapsed because it was never made safe isn't. Rain did not kill these people. It was the infrastructure that failed them. And that is an important distinction to make, because every time it rains, the conversation quickly becomes about the weather, when it should really be about governance. The monsoon comes every year. The India Met Department or IMD issues alerts every year. The BMC prepares a monsoon action plan every year. And yet, every year, the city seems to be caught off guard. Mumbai's civic body is India's richest. So this isn't a city that is starved of resources.
This woman in Kansas City searched her name and found $6.1 million in unclaimed money. Like what?
Wait, you don't know about unclaimed money? This is something everybody should know.
That's nearly $2 million road concretization project, specifically aimed at reducing monsoon potholes. So the question is, why are the results still missing? Why does every monsoon feel like a stress test that the city fails? Why do Mumbaikars keep paying the price with their time, livelihoods, mental health, and far too often their lives? Now, if you're from India, there is one phrase that is almost synonymous with the city, the spirit of Mumbai. The city is known for its legendary resilience, its relentless work ethic, which allows its residents to bounce back to life immediately after crises. And that spirit is truly extraordinary. But Mumbai's resilience should be a source of pride, not an excuse for administrative failure. It's time to shift the conversation from the spirit of Mumbai to the state of it during monsoons. Our next story is from Sri Lanka. A deadly riot has taken place, a prison riot which has left at least 26 people dead. Clashes broke out in a prison in the city of Negombo. Reports say two rival drug gangs began fighting on Sunday, and the violence continued this morning as well. Prison guards tried to intervene, but they got caught in the clashes. 7 guards have been killed. 19 prisoners have died as well. Women prisoners ran to the roof of the prison and requested evacuation. The situation has been deadly and chaotic. Our next report is all the details.
Police in riot gear barricading the gates. Security personnel beating people back. And then taking the dead and wounded to a hospital. These were the scenes from Negombo prison in Sri Lanka on Monday morning. A deadly prison riot broke out the previous day. It continued overnight, and by Monday morning, dozens had died in the violence. The official death toll has reached 26. 7 of the people slain were prison guards. 19 were prisoners. The riot was triggered by a fight between rival drug gangs. A drug trafficking operation was reportedly taking place inside the prison. But one inmate turned informant. This sparked the clashes between the drug gangs, and prison guards could not contain the fighting. When they tried to intervene, the prison guards fell prey to the violence as well. Gunshots were reportedly heard from inside Negombo prison. Some of the victims bore injuries from blades. Amid the chaos, some prisoners tried to escape, but the police managed to hold them back. Meanwhile, some women prisoners from an adjoining section of the facility climbed to the roof. They demanded that they be released as the violence spread. But the police say that part of the roof collapsed, injuring some of the women. After the riot was brought under control, disturbing visuals began to emerge. Several injured individuals were seen being escorted out of the prison. Reports say they were taken to the general hospital in Negombo for treatment. The hospital director said that over 100 people had been brought to the facility, but at least 18 people have reportedly been taken to Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo. These are the people who have sustained serious injuries. They are being treated at the Colombo National Hospital. As news of the riot spread, family members of the inmates gathered outside Negombo prison. A massive crowd gathered alongside the prisoners' relatives. Sri Lanka called in the military. A special task force was also deployed. The armed forces say they were kept on standby outside the prison as local law enforcement dealt with the riots. The presence of the military also kept the crowds outside the prison at bay as the situation unfolded. Once the riot ended, Sri Lanka's Justice Minister visited Negombo prison. He accepted responsibility for the incident and offered condolences to the families of the deceased.
Whether they were inmates or associated with the underworld is not relevant to us at this moment. Human beings have died, and there is a deep shock regarding that. This is something that should never have occurred.
Several of the inmates from Negombo prison have been transferred. The Sri Lankan government has initiated a probe into the riot. The core problem is reportedly overcrowding in prisons across the country. Sri Lanka's prison system is designed to hold about 10,000 prisoners, but there are almost 40,000 inmates in the country right now. Sri Lanka was forced to give amnesty to some prisoners after a riot back in 2020, at the height of the COVID pandemic. But unless the country's prison system is reformed, similar deadly riots may erupt again.
Now let's talk about the FIFA World Cup, specifically about the latest controversy rocking the tournament. Team USA just received a major boost. Folarin Balogun is back. He is their top goal scorer at the tournament. He has scored 3 goals for the team so far, and he is now available to play in the match against Belgium. This despite Balogun getting a red card in his last match. He was sent off against Bosnia and Herzegovina. He got a straight red. The referee decided that he had stepped on a Bosnian player's ankle. So, Team USA's top striker was given his marching orders. But now that decision has been reversed. Why? Apparently, because of meddling by the American president. Yes, Donald Trump has inserted himself into the World Cup again, and arguably in the most direct way yet. Trump reportedly made 3 phone calls to FIFA. He told the global footballing body to undo the referee's decision. And what did FIFA do? It bent over backwards to accommodate the American president again. The decision has been met with outrage from across the footballing world. The Union of European Football Associations, or UEFA, has issued a statement. It says that the decision to let Balogun play crossed a red line. Team USA's next opponent, Belgium, says it is astonished. It has called out FIFA's hypocrisy and the special treatment being given to the American player. The Belgian Football Association has made an appeal to FIFA, asking it to undo its decision. And Team Belgium's head coach has reacted with scathing sarcasm.
As I was saying to your colleagues over there during the one-to-one interview, I didn't realize that at FIFA headquarters, July 5th was the equivalent of April 1st in Europe. That was news to me. I think we should refer to the statement issued by my federation, the Belgian Football Association. I think it was quite comprehensive. The Belgian Football Association isn't defending itself, nor is it defending the national team. It's defending football in general, the integrity and ethics. As far as I can recall, I think this is the first time in the history of the World Cup that such a decision has been made. That's it. As for me, I'm the coach. I'm going to focus on my team and on the match, regardless of the USA's starting 11. That's it. What matters to me is what happens on the pitch, my team, and that we win and reach the quarterfinals.
Garcia was wrong about one thing. This has happened before at a World Cup, but he can be forgiven for forgetting the last incident because it happened all the way back in 1962. That was 64 years ago. It was before Garcia was even born. The 1962 World Cup was held in the South American nation of Chile. Brazil beat the host nation in the semi-final, but their star player, Garrincha, was sent off in the match. However, the Brazilian superstar was allowed to play the next match. He played in the final despite the red card, and even though he didn't make much of an impact, Brazil went on to win and lift the trophy. So technically, there is a precedent. However, there is one major difference. Back in 1962, a suspension was not an automatic red card. The rules did not mandate it back then. Instead, FIFA's disciplinary committee would award suspensions on a case-by-case basis. So don't get me wrong. The
websites your competitors don't want you to know, part 2. All you do is go to this website, and it lets you find out exactly
about it as well. But again, there was still some gray area back in 1962. That is not the case today. Today, a red card is absolute. The player who gets it will be sent off, and they will miss the following match. Those are the rules now. The Belgium fans are livid that the rules are being overturned.
What is a red card? When we give a red card, it's because the player made a serious mistake, and that's why they were given a red card. So why is it now that the player who was no longer supposed to play, how did they manage to erase that mistake? Did the referee make a mistake in doing his job? I don't think so. So was it the government using its influence in telling us, we're stronger than you, you're weak, or what is it? Why is that player going to play again? I don't understand any of this, and I'd really like someone to explain it to me.
This is not the first controversy caused by the United States hosting the tournament. The Iranian national football team was subjected to unfair treatment. They were not allowed to stay in the United States, even though all their group stage matches took place there. Trump's war on Iran meant that even the football team was considered an enemy. The Iranian team had to stay in Mexico, and they had to fly into the United States just 24 hours before their fixtures. This was unfair treatment. No other team got that little time to prepare for their matches. The Iranians could not make it past the group stage, though, to their credit, they did not lose a single game. They managed to draw all their group stage matches. But it wasn't enough to make it to the knockouts.
It's a disaster World Cup. It's a disaster. Who of charge of FIFA. They have to solve every problem here, but unfortunately they couldn't solve since the beginning.
Iran's treatment was a major controversy, a classic example of political interference in the World Cup. Other examples include the treatment of fans from certain countries. Fans not given visas because their nation is blacklisted by the United States. Then there were the videos of the searches. Players from Senegal and Uzbekistan were the targets here. They were subjected to very invasive searches as they got off their team bus. This World Cup has been full of controversy, and most of it has been caused by the United States. Trump's latest move is another new low. The president of the host nation asking FIFA for favors to get an advantage for his national team. Some of you may think that Balogun deserves a break, that his red card was not warranted. It's a valid point. But the head coach of the English team had the perfect response to sum up this fiasco.
I think, first of all, to be very clear, that it was not a red card. But VAR got involved, and obviously 3 people from VAR and the referee checked it, were then the opinion that it was a red card. So it's a decision is made. Who overturns this decision then, and when, and on what grounds, and how far does this go now?
Mark Zuckerberg fired 8,000 people this year. 7,000 more were reshuffled into AI teams, which, if you're keeping score, is corporate speak for you still have a job but don't get too comfortable. And then months later, on a live interview, the Meta boss looks into the camera and says, AI will not replace human workers. It's not inevitable. Sir, your own memo disagrees with you. This is the biggest contradiction in the Silicon Valley right now. The men building the machines don't seem to trust the technology. Meta has spent the past few months behaving like automation is the future. When it laid off thousands of employees in May, the reasoning was this: a nearly $145 billion investment on AI infrastructure. And it didn't stop there. Earlier this year, Meta experimented with software They tracked employees' mouse movements and keystrokes because nothing boosts employee morale quite like your computer becoming your snitch. The backlash was immediate. Meta paused that program. Executives later clarified that employee data wasn't actually used to train AI. But the damage had already been done because trust, unlike software, doesn't come with automatic updates. So when the same person who handed pink slips to so many employees due to AI says that the tech will not replace human workers, it sounds nothing but ironic. And there's more. Behind closed doors, at an internal town hall, Zuckerberg admitted something very different. He told employees the AI agents had not progressed as quickly as he expected. He admitted the layoffs weren't clean. It gets murkier though. Meta's chief technology officer called the rollout of the company's new AI division atrocious. Now, Meta isn't alone. This is the season of AI confessions. Sam Altman says autonomous agents aren't reliable yet. Satya Nadella says Microsoft's co-pilots still need a human babysitter. Google admits its AI still struggles with basic reasoning. Amazon is playing it cautious. And Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, has warned that AI systems will still hallucinate too much to be trusted alone in high-stakes rooms. Read between the lines and a pattern emerges. Every company selling you the AI revolution is quietly asking you not to believe the hype just yet. And it's not just tech. We have companies that have fired so many employees banking on a future that has not yet arrived. Auto firm Ford rolled out AI for quality control, then rehired 350 human engineers because the machines weren't cutting it. The Commonwealth Bank of Australia and the tech firm IBM have also walked back their hiring plans. They're now focusing more on human capital. So somebody tell me, is this the fourth industrial revolution or the world's most expensive trial and error experiment? We've confused technological capability with organizational reality. Just because AI can perform a task doesn't mean companies can instantly redesign themselves around it. Think about it. An AI model can draft reports, summarize meetings, write code. Absolutely impressive. But deploying AI across an entire organization isn't as simple as downloading an app. Businesses need new workflows and perhaps most importantly, confidence that the AI won't confidently invent facts halfway through an important project. Technology evolves in months. Organizations evolve in years. That's the real bottleneck, which brings me to perhaps the most interesting evidence. Researchers at Yale's Budget Lab recently examined employment trends across America since ChatGPT arrived in late 2022. And their conclusion? No statistically significant economy-wide labor market disruption. The Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance found that 81% of surveyed institutions had adopted AI in some form. But there's a catch. Only 14% said that the tech has transformed their organizational strategy. Meanwhile, economists at the Dallas Federal Reserve found something very different. Young workers, particularly those between 22 and 25, in AI-exposed occupations experienced employment declines of roughly 13%. Contradictory? Not really. They're simply looking at different layers of the economy. The overall labor market remains resilient. Entry-level knowledge workers, not so much. That's because automation isn't happening evenly. It's happening selectively, especially in the entry-level jobs. The question isn't, will AI replace humans? The better question is this: which humans, which jobs, and how fast? Every major technological revolution created disruption, but disruption rarely arrived overnight. Electricity didn't eliminate factories.
I got one challenge for you. Try WhisperFlow one time, and I promise you'll understand why
AI may follow exactly that same path. This is the part the doom and boom crowd both miss. So no, AI probably isn't coming for everyone's job tomorrow, but neither is your job completely safe forever. The future won't belong to humans alone, nor to machines alone. It will belong to those who learn how to make both work together. because artificial intelligence may be accelerating. But it's one thing to tell the world AI will replace humans. It's another to explain why you're hiring the humans back.
Okay, so as you can see the clips there, it pretty much showcases pretty much the U.S. flexing its muscle a little bit. Donald Trump with getting, I guess, FIFA to reverse that decision. You know, it's just power, right? Being shown that if you have power, you have the ability to get results, and it's not fair at all. But it's something that you can kind of see how power can be manipulated. There are a few other great segments there with the AI boom and advancements there. But we'll stop here. I thank you guys for joining me and catching up with the latest developments, both with the Iran war and other events happening around the world. I hope this has been useful to you. And I ask that you like and subscribe, stay connected to the channel if you're not already a member, but also weigh in, leave your thoughts on the various segments covered here. And until next time, be well. God bless.